Welcome to Pet Patrol, Protector of the Pack. I'm your host, Alan Braslow, and today I have with me Nancy Bonsall.
Hi.
And Chuck Isdell. I met these two fantastic individuals about a year ago when a puppy store opened up in Cherry Hill, and we were out picketing to shut this place down or convert it to something more humane, which eventually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it would be interesting to find out from Nancy and Chuck from day one to where we are today and where we hope to be in the future, to get their thoughts, because they are an example of two wonderful people who stood up and take a stand against animal abuse. So we were talking before we got started on the show, and before I have each of them give you a little bit about their background, Chuck, maybe you can clarify a point for me as to how we actually all got to know each other, because it's very different from what I thought.
Well, I was driving on Route 70 in Cherry Hill, and I saw, first I saw a sign that said puppies, and shortly after that I saw pickets outside that store along Route 70, and I pulled over. And I have to say, honestly, I pulled over because I knew Nancy would want me to. And I asked who was in charge, who was running the picket line. And they took me right to you. I got your business card, took it home to Nancy, and that was the beginning of our relationship. So she's my inspiration about this from the get-go. I know that Nancy loves all animals, and so when I became aware of the puppy store, I knew it would be a good idea to keep her informed of what was going on in the neighborhood.
Do we have that? Are we okay now on that we're good on that story?
We're
So
good.
Chuck
We're good
actually found us.
Yes, he did. He found you.
There you go. And then I think it was within 12 hours, you were there.
I had a sign.
You had a sign.
As soon as I got there, I had a sign.
And probably spent more time than anybody in helping make this change.
I made it my the way that I would volunteer for as long as you guys would be there. I would be there, and it was my pleasure to be there.
So, how long have you been in that? And for those of you who don't know, this was a venture in which we convinced a puppy mill store owner to change his business model to rescue only.
Right.
We had the change went into effect this last October, and we still spend a fair amount of time interacting and helping, and they've adopted out over 800 puppies between two locations that all would have been dead had this change not taken place. So I thank both of you for everything you've been doing. So when did you become as caring about animals as you are?
I would say that when I was 35 years old, I read a book called Diet for a New America, which is by John Robbins, and it was about how animals are treated in factory farming and etc. But I didn't know it, and I learned so much about it that I instantly became a vegetarian that day. And then from there, I've always loved dogs. My love has always been dogs. I've had puppies, I've saved dogs, they've changed my life, and I've changed theirs. I love them.
There's definitely a pecking order in the house, and I'm at the bottom.
Yeah.
Well, and he doesn't mind.
So I can relate to that. I really can. There's the 9 and then me.
the fact that I could help in some way, I knew what a puppy mill was. I was aware of it for sure, but I never had the opportunity to do anything about it. So this was my opportunity to let my voice be heard, spend the time, and I learned. And then when I met everybody who was there, I learned so much more about it that it lit my fire even more of how horrible it is.
So that started for you at 35, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, a couple years out, right.
Chuck, when did you become an animal advocate?
When he married me.
I guess on our first date at Carrabba's, when I ordered a salad and Nancy said if you had ordered veal, this would have been our last date.
I can actually relate to that. The veal and I don't. That's not on my list of things I might eat.
That's right.
But I would say, following up on Nancy's introduction, though, see, I think I knew what a puppy mill was in the abstract. It wasn't until the store opened in Cherry Hill that, with your help and with Nancy's help and with things that we've been reading and all, that I became aware of the connection between pet stores and puppy mills and how important it is to try to stop pet shops from selling puppies and kittens, to close that outlet for the terrible inhumanity that happens mostly out of our sight, out of our consciousness, because it's not local. But the pet store was local, and I think that's what hit home with me.
It's interesting. It's interesting the way you describe that, because I think we all go through it out of sight, out of mind. And when all of a sudden it's on your front door, and then you do a little bit of research. So what if you wanted to educate someone and just share with them what you learned from the time when you first came out and you started to protest and you started looking at what happens. Here's the end of the food chain, in essence, when the puppy gets sold out of that store. So what did you learn about that whole process, from where it starts to where it ends up? What would you say?
Well, I was going to say the main thing for me that I didn't know, it's not completely answering your question, was the inhumane treatment of parent animals.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize just how inhumane that it was. And the idea for me that an animal would be treated that way, the parent animals, and the inhumanity of it, and the years that they spend just being bred over and over and over again, and then then you produce this perfect little beautiful puppy, and then people go and they buy that for an extremely high amount of money that is sickening. That was like so that's how I learned the way that the process goes, and it's just everybody who has these puppies don't even think about it. So I would say that would be what I learned about it. And I also realized that what we were doing was only just a step, and so much more needed to be done. That just having pets turn into a humane store, which is wonderful, was only just the beginning of what we were going to start trying to do in New Jersey.
So more or less that revelation, which most people don't seem to go through, that they understand that this is just the tip of the iceberg. You're only seeing the end product, and you're getting the results of bad breeding and overbreeding and inhumane treatment of the parents of those dogs. And the difference of what you were going to say, Chuck.
Well, just from my perspective too, again, having met Nancy when she already had 2 dogs who were getting on in years at that time.
That are rescues.
Both rescues, and when the first and the second one passed away, in the time since we've known each other, Nancy saying to me, we're going to save another one. That's how we honor the memory of the one that passed. And I didn't quite get it. The idea was to go to a shelter or a rescue. Why go any other way? So that was sort of inbred in me, in a way, to maybe not a good choice of words, but the idea that there are all these dogs and cats that need to be adopted. So why do we need to produce dogs as products in a factory kind of environment? Whatever they're selling them for, they're taking away the chance for a dog who's already here to be adopted. So it just there's like a logic to it, to me, that I feel like unless every dog in every shelter was already adopted, you don't need to produce more dogs in factory kind of situations. It just doesn't make sense. So I mean, I'm looking at it maybe more like from the perspective of a business person. Supply and demand. Well, why are we oversupplying when we already have worthy, adorable dogs just waiting to get taken home by somebody?
It's a good analogy. We recently read an article that if you euthanized the entire population of Los Angeles every year, which is about 4 million people, just gone, that's how many animals, cats and dogs, are put down every year. and yet you have businesses out there that are just keep producing. I have some questions I want to get back to you with. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, I want to talk to you about the legislation that's passed and what you have been doing that's so instrumental. So this is Pet Patrol, Protector of the Plaque. We'll be back in a couple of moments.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
If you haven't been to Speed Raceway, what are you waiting for? You want to live fast? You want to make every second count? Then grab the family. Round up the guys. Speed Raceway is 100,000 square feet of excitement, whether you're a kid or a kid at heart. Speed Raceway is the place for endless fun all summer long. Log on to speedraceway.com or just get here now.
You can't predict what a pet will bring to your life, but with a plan in front of you and veterinary pet insurance behind you, you're ready for whatever comes your way. With VPI, you're ready for anything.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to give a sub some sizzle, this is the way. The way it's always been. The way it always should be. The way it always will be. Because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Today's show has been sponsored by Farmers Insurance in Voorhees, New Jersey. To protect your assets and the people you love, call Mike Skoranek, your local Farmers Insurance agent, at 856-336-2553.
We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
Welcome back to Pet Patrol, Protector of the Pack. This is Alan Braslow, your host. And again, I have Chuck Isdell and Nancy Bonsall with me, the dynamic duo, as I like to refer to them as. Share with everyone what happened as we were protesting, and then finally we had some significant help from a certain freeholder, and where that has gone.
Well, again, a lot of things in life happen sort of by people coming together, somewhat by accident, but maybe there's fate involved. But you're an example. Because of you, we got involved, and we actually got to meet Jeff Nash, the Camden County freeholder. And Nancy, I have to say in the beginning, I couldn't understand the connection, but Nancy was saying to me, something great is going to happen. There's a Camden County freeholder, and he's going to sponsor legislation to try to get all the towns in Camden County to pass an ordinance saying that you can have a pet shop, you just can't sell dogs and cats from puppy mills in that pet shop.
They must be rescues.
They have to be from a rescue or a shelter. The concept, again, for me was sort of an abstract idea, but we went to we had a press event, I think, at the Camden County Shelter where we first met Jeff. At least I first met him. We went to the actual freeholder meeting. We began to see people coming together in larger numbers in support of this. People were testifying. There were a few naysayers, but for the most part, it was a great feeling of camaraderie and people cheering and saying, we're doing something good here. I think the kind of amazing thing is that we've been doing this for about 6 months now. I think the original resolution was passed in September of last year. So a little over 6 months. It was an education for us to realize that there are 37 townships in Camden County, and the goal was to try to get every one of them to pass that ordinance. And so far we've gotten about 30. I think we have 3 or 4 that are in process. So we've almost hit 100%. And I think the next question would be, where do we go from here? But this all started with you, with Jeff Nash, with Camden County, with Cherry Hill, and then township after township.
Which
I don't
is,
wanna-
well, the township after township is what we've been doing. We go and we try to we go to township meetings and we talk about it. We try to give everybody a lot of information, and it's a long process. And it's also interesting to know how many people do not really realize how awful a puppy mill is. So it's an education for people. Many people do, of course, know, but some do not. And so we've gone through Camden County and we've gotten all these ordinances passed, and that protects each township that they will not have a puppy store open like we did in Cherry Hill. It does not put puppy stores out of business. We hope to have them turn into a rescue operation where all the animals that they do they adopt them out rather than buy them from a puppy mill and an inhumane place like that, and they adopt them out. So now that we've got so many people on board in Camden County, we're moving into Gloucester County and also into Burlington County. And that's a little more difficult because they don't have Jeffrey Nash. So it's, when you have the force of Jeffrey Nash, whose heart is so much in the right place and he's so dedicated, it makes it a little easier. And Burlington and Gloucester do not yet have a resolution. So it makes our job a little bit harder, but they are passing, they're slowly passing, and we keep working on it. And I just want to add, if anybody would like to call their township and say they support their township in banning the sale of puppy and cat mill animals, that would be very helpful. And all of your towns, especially the ones I just mentioned, and there are more, have the ordinance in their offices.
So in essence, the ordinances that you're looking to pass, there's two aspects. One is if you're in a town that does not have any sort of puppy store selling puppies, and this ordinance will protect them from having that type of store in their town.
One cannot open once they have the ordinance in place.
Okay. And the localities that may have a store, the idea is to prohibit future stores being opened up.
Correct.
And hopefully getting the owners of the stores to realize that making a change to a humane model is not going to put them out of business.
Right.
If anything, it will make them more in tune with their community, and they can still make a good living, and they can do something good. Similar to what happened with Pat's in Cherry Hill.
Exactly.
People go there to adopt, and they do pay a fee, and it might be a little bit higher than they would pay in another shelter, but they need to cover their expenses, and they need to keep the doors open. So as a business person, and like you and I spoke, Chuck, there's a realization that they're going to make a transition and they still have to pay their bills. It just doesn't magically go away.
Right. The other thing, that's kind of the behind-the-scenes work that Nancy and I have done a lot of, is just getting this information out to all these towns and boroughs throughout the county and now throughout some other counties and hopefully eventually through the whole state. But a lot of that is just not very glamorous, sitting at your laptop finding out who is the borough clerk. Can you get an email address, for the mayor and the council members or the town committee members, and then try to reach them either with emails, by phone, make sure they have a copy of the model ordinance, make sure they know that they can call, and a lot of times we give them your name, Alan, and your phone number.
They have
somebody
questions.
They can call with questions. And I would say 90% of the time or more, people have been extremely receptive and very little resistance. And sometimes the resistance, like Nancy said, comes from people's lack of knowledge of the issue. They certainly don't have bad reasoning or anything like that, or any cruelty. They just don't know what a puppy mill is and how the pipeline from the puppy mills to the pet stores. That's the missing link.
I remember when the resolution was passed in Camden County, we were all sitting around, and there was one gentleman who got up. He's a breeder. He's been around, and he said, "This is the best thing I've ever seen in 15 years." And it just went to prove to us that it's not just us; it's the folks who are good breeders,
Right.
quality operations who would never sell to a puppy store, that they understand this as well. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then I have a couple more questions for you. One of them about some of the challenges and some of the people who have shown up to give testimony, and the lack of truthfulness that has come out that you've experienced, and maybe some of the frustration that you see. Again, this is Pet Patrol, Protector of the Pack. This is Alan Braslow with Chuck Isdell and Nancy Bonsall. We'll be back in a few moments.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
If you haven't been to Speed Raceway, what are you waiting for? You want to live fast? You want to make every second count? Then grab the family. Round up the guys. Speed Raceway is 100,000 square feet of excitement, whether you're a kid or a kid at heart. Speed Raceway is the place for endless fun all summer long. Log on to speedraceway.com or just get here now.
You can't predict what a pet will bring to your life, but with a plan in front of you and veterinary pet insurance behind you, you're ready for whatever comes your way. With VPI, you're ready for anything.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to give a sub some sizzle, this is the way. The way it's always been. The way it always should be. The way it always will be. Because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
Today's show has been sponsored by Farmers Insurance in Voorhees, New Jersey. To protect your assets and the people you love, call Mike Skoranek, your local Farmers Insurance agent, at 856-336-2553.
We are farmers. Bum ba dum bum 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 bum.
Welcome back to Pet Patrol, Protector of the Pack. This is Alan Braslow, your host, and again I'm here with Chuck Isdell and Nancy Bonsall, two of my very close friends. During the break, we were just talking a little bit about the fact that you and the team that you have been building are going town by town, county by county throughout the state of New Jersey. And someone had asked me, why bother if we have state legislation that they're trying to pass, what we call S63? I'll ask you why.
Well, I think it's important that we go town by town because each township is important, especially if S63 is not completely the same and it doesn't work out. We're just building town after town so that we can make a case. We're also supporting that they see that all these townships have already placed an ordinance. And I think that I'll let Chuck speak what you were just saying during the break, because that explains it better, hon.
Well, first of all, S63, we're strongly in support of it, but it hasn't passed yet. In the meantime, we feel that every town in New Jersey that passes an ordinance like this is a step toward getting S63 passed. We would like a strong statement to be made across the state against inhumanity. And what I was reminded of was we also went across the river to see the hearings in Philadelphia where they passed a very similar ordinance. These ordinances, as you've told us, Alan, the model ordinance was drafted by the Humane Society of the United States. And although each town is free to make minor changes, they've all pretty much adopted the same ordinance in our experience. So to see a major city like Philadelphia adopt almost the identical ordinance that we've been passing, and during the testimony there, I thought a powerful statement was made that when a town or city passes an ordinance like this, the community is making a statement against inhumanity. I think that alone is enough reason to pass the ordinance. The actual day-to-day enforcement and operation and administration of the ordinance is certainly the guts of the process. But I like to think that I live in a town or community that says this kind of inhumanity is not acceptable, and we're not going to tolerate it. And I think Jeff Nash also has made statements like that at public hearings and in the media, that this is a terrible inhumanity, and this is a great opportunity to put a stop to it. We all can do some small part in this process.
I found it interesting in Philadelphia when we were there that they do not have any puppy stores.
Right.
And they, exactly what you said, it impressed me when they talked about the fact that you have to take a stand, and you have to stand up against inhumanity. You have to educate your fellow citizens as to what the inhumanity is. That's something that I've seen in going to some of the meetings with you when we tell the facts, and it's just the facts and the truth. It is. I mean, puppy mills are. Dogs are kept, a dog the size of a beagle, it spends its entire life at a puppy mill living in a cage the size of a dishwasher. It's hard to dispute the truth, even though some of the folks who speak against it will try and they'll manipulate the truth.
Yeah, I would say a small minority of testimony that we've witnessed has been against the ordinance. And to be honest, it always seems to be from people who have a profit motivation.
An interest, yeah.
They're either testifying for the pet store, or they are representing the pet store one way or another. So they're not totally objective in the testimony. They have perhaps what we would call an ulterior motive.
Yes, I would tend to agree.
And usually the truth will win out in that kind of a contest, we hope.
So, the two of you are aware that we've surpassed every other state in the union.
Just recently, right?
Yeah.
We beat out Florida?
We beat out Florida in the last 2 weeks, and it's a good competition because every time they pass a few more, we pass a few more. And other states are starting to pay attention. You mentioned about the ordinance and the way it was written by the Humane Society. I have never seen anything that easy to understand, and in less than 2.5 pages, that just states very simply, you cannot sell a dog or cat in a store that come from a puppy mill or from breeders such as the puppy mills. Hopefully what you're doing will pass in every state and every town. Right now I know you folks are working on New Jersey. I'm sure you'll be recruited to work once you have that done further. And I commend you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any words of wisdom to folks from other states who might want to do the same thing, or can they reach out to you?
I would say that, that they could definitely email us. I think that also just you can begin this in your own town, and we can get you started in how to do it. So if you want to put an email address up, that would be fine with me. And I also just want to say, if you've ever loved a dog, this is about, how could you even think for 1 second that it would be okay for these animals that are true spirits to be treated in this way? It's wrong, and we can't allow it to happen. Now that we're aware, we cannot allow this to happen.
Chuck, Nancy, I appreciate your joining us today.
Thank you.
And for everything that you're doing. I mean, I wake up in the morning and I know the two of you are out there, and it makes my life a lot easier and a lot more rewarding. Thank you for joining us on Pet Patrol, Protector of the Pack. We will be back soon with some more very interesting and very passionate people.